In part one of two, Josh Ward details on what it's like to take a youngster hunting for the first time.
Hey, I'm KJ, dedicated lifelong hunter here. If you got an interest in all things hunting, you're in the right spot. Whether chasing quail across the plains of Oklahoma or in pursuit of elk in the backcountry of British Columbia, you'll always find me on the hunt.
This Gun Talk Hunt is brought to you by Smith & Wesson. Find everything you need to know, smith-wesson.com. Welcome in, all you Gun Talk hunters. I'm your host, KJ, and today, man, we're going to be talking about some youth hunting and the trials and tribulations of one man. That is Josh Ward, and he's out of Gunpowder Inc. Josh, how you doing, man?
I'm doing really well. And I'm super excited to be here with you.
Well, I'm telling you what, so this is brought to you by Range Ready Studios, rangereadystudios.com, all your training needs, everything good like that. Josh and I, dude, we go way back. We somehow find out we're actually related, which is a whole funny story. But we worked together at Blue Heron Communications for a while. Probably the finest, I would say he's the finest outdoor writer and communicator that I know, that everyone should know, but I don't know if everybody does. So Josh, give them an idea who you are, what you are, and all that good stuff.
Wow. That's a really big compliment. I appreciate that. I'm not worthy of that compliment, but no, I just, I started out as a sports writer but loved hunting and fishing, and just like you, wound up finding a dreamboat gig and found a way into the industry. And here we are all these years later. Now we're like the old guys now.
We always joked about it. Actually, our boss, Gary Judici, he joked about it more than anything. He's like, I can't wait till I grow old and see you guys as the old guys. And I'm like, I think we're there.
Yeah.
I really do. So what are you doing now?
So right now I'm the PR director at Gunpowder Inc. Gunpowder Inc. is based out of Delafield, Wisconsin. I'm fortunate enough to get to work here out of the home office in Norman, Oklahoma. And just working on all of our hunt shoot clients. So Sitka gear being one of the big ones. Also have Ozonics, Raven crossbows. Got some good clients in the hunt shoot space. So really excited about that.
Yeah, you guys have Gunpowder Inc. really has grown their outdoor space as far as like the shooting sports. Like when you start talking about representing brands like Sitka and Raven crossbows and Ozonics for sure, those are three big names in our industry.
Yeah, we were extremely fortunate to be aligned with some great companies that make really good products. You and I, we're much the same school of thought. We want to work with brands that we trust and we believe in. And I'm very fortunate to be able to do that and have a great team around me as well. A lot of good folks. And, we have some that are in Wisconsin and some that are in other parts of the country, and just a really good team we put together. Really proud of it.
So we got off of a call. I don't know. It had to have been last week. We got off of a call and you were telling me about a hunting adventure that you had just taken with your son. And it just got us to thinking that, we should really probably document this via podcast. And so that's what we're going to really dive into. We're going to dive into like youth hunting, taking youth hunting. How do you do it? What gear do you need? And dude, I'm telling you what, like if you listen to his story, you will begin to realize, one, how good of a storyteller Josh is. And two, the stuff we go through for our kids is ridiculous. And the stuff you encounter on a daily basis is hilarious. So Josh, I'm going to kind of let you set the scene here and then we'll talk. We'll bite it off in chunks and little bits and pieces, but I'm going to go ahead and get you started. Go for it.
Well, I have a 10-year-old son named Ryan. He's a great kid, really good kid. And my concern was starting him hunting too early, right? He's been on some hunts here and there, but I'm like you. Yeah. When we go deer hunting, we go deer hunting. So I didn't want to take him too soon and him not like it because once we're in the woods, we're in the woods. So this year, was going to go ahead and take him. Was fortunate enough to be able to borrow a rifle that was a little bit more suited to him from my brother. I borrowed a Remington Model 7 chambered in 708 simply because none of my rifles, I don't think a 300, whether it be a 30-06, it's going to be in Ryan's wheelhouse. So
That's not the most pleasant thing to go shoot on your first deer. Like, Dad,
yeah.
I got the deer, but man, my shoulders broke.
So we got it all set up. We had an invite to go up to my brother-in-law's father's place up South of Enid, Oklahoma, and so off we go. And I had hunted this place in the past, hadn't hunted it in a decade plus probably, and so was familiar with the area. Knew that the deer herd was growing. Figured we had a chance to get him on a good first buck, or a doe.
Yeah.
The challenge was going to be he needs, for my comfort level, I wanted him to take 100-yard, sub 100-yard shots off of sticks.
Yeah.
That's to me a responsible shot, an ethical shot for him at this point. So we go out. Yeah, I mean, we were all the days that we hunted, we were on deer, and found a really nice 9 one day, really tall, main beams almost touched, dark horned. Just couldn't get him in a position. And then later that night, I actually saw one of probably I'd say 5 biggest deer I've ever seen on the hoof while I was hunting.
No
But it
kidding.
was across the fence line in another field on a property we didn't have permission to hunt.
He said, "Let me borrow that gun, Ryan. Hold on a second. I just called the landowner, and he said you can't shoot, but I will." Like that's how that story would have played out for me.
Yeah, and I told him, I said, "Look, I said I'm here for you. I'm here to work hard for you." I said, "But I'm not that good of a dad." I said, "If that if that dude shows up on this side of the fence, you might find yourself shoved out of the way. I'm going to shoot you." Because I was like, I said, "I'm doing you a favor, Ryan. It's all downhill from there. You may never
Yeah.
shoot an animal this big, so
Right.
just look at it as a favor and not as
Whereas you and I had been like searching for a deer like that every time we go out. That's like what we're looking for. I'm not opposed to a kid shooting a deer that big, but dadgummit, man, like there's a little bit of jealousy in me every time I see one of those pictures. I'm like, that son of a gun did it. Look at them go.
Yeah, and so we pieced together a kit for him. He's in that phase and time where he's growing a lot, right? Like he's got big feet, and he's going to be a thick kid. So pieced him a kit together from my Sitka gear. So he wound up pretty much wearing my favorite big game stuff, and it was going to be pretty cold. I actually broke out some of my Sitka waterfowl stuff.
Oh, really?
I was hunting.
Well, I'm telling you what, like if there's guys out there that are like looking for waterfowl gear, typically most people think of Sitka as more of a like big game, like that type of deal. But their waterfowl stuff, and especially like those EQ waders that they've got now, those are freaking incredible. I think they might be one of the finest and most indestructible waders out there.
Yeah, they've been really good. And that duck oven jacket, it is a really nice jacket. And so I had the core merinos underneath it, and had a pair of their grinder pants on, and off we went. And we were on deer every day, working with him on, be quiet, pick your feet up when you walk, don't slam truck doors. We were working on all that.
Did you have a little practice session before you left the house?
We did, actually. We did.
Really?
We did. And then, like we always do, I always stop, a mile up the road and change out my boots and all that kind of stuff. So worked on, getting our packs ready and our headlamps on, and worked on closing the door quietly. He took to it pretty well.
Yeah.
And I talked to him so much about, being quiet, and he was really good about that. And when I said, "Hey, we're going to rattle and grunt a little bit," he kind of had this weird look,
Like, you said we were being quiet.
So, luckily, as luck would have it, they were pretty responsive. But weirdly enough, both bucks and does. I bet I rattled in as many does and fawns as I did bucks.
No kidding.
Yeah. So we'd go out. The second weekend we were there, we went out on Saturday morning, and the weather report was calling for this really weird east wind, which at that point in the year, if it wasn't bringing like a storm, didn't make much sense. But we got a mile away and we're changing out our stuff. I was like, this is not an east wind. So I checked the wind, and I said, "Hey, we've got a perfect wind. We could sneak up on the backside of this wheat field and we'll rattle from the fence row."
Oh,
just touch the brush. Okay, here we go. So off we go. Sun comes up. It's like just a few minutes into legal shooting light. And I said, "Okay, I'm going to rattle." I touched the horns one time, and we had one come in like a fighter jet, almost into our laps. And
Really?
yeah, and it was a spike, but it had one spike about 7, 8 inches long. The other one was almost broke off, or just
Yeah.
broke off about like that. And I thought, well, I'll let him shoot this deer, but he couldn't get him in position. Of course, he was in the. I had put him in the wrong spot, and the deer never blew at us. He just walked around us
Yeah.
and knew what we were. And so we hunted the rest of the day. And I will say, I wish I could go back and formally apologize to my dad for how much work he probably put in all those years on deer hunts. And I'm also
It,
thinking now that every gratuity I've ever given a guide probably wasn't enough. Um,
never,
it's
ever. I mean, you talk about that as a kind of a joke, but there's a lot that goes into like ushering someone else through the woods that is a novice. I
yeah.
mean, but it's just, my gosh, it's just so, sometimes you get frustrated because you're like, because like us, like being more advanced hunters, you look at it and you're like, why didn't you shoot that deer? Like, well, to us, it's like second nature.
Mm.
It's just like breathing to us. And you have to anticipate, man, mistakes are going to happen. And you have to kind of collect yourself and go, all right, they're new. They're new. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Let's go.
Well, one of the things that I was really fortunate in this experience, and I am of the opinion, and my wife said the same thing. She's like, "You've got a deer hunter. Like he's eat up with it now. He's talking about it. He's asking questions about it. He's talking about gear. So it's very exciting, really. I mean, for me, I was really fortunate that I did have all that extra Sitka gear because he never, honest to God, I was really worried about him saying, I'm cold, I want to leave, or, I'm bored or whatever. Because, kids today, their attention
Yeah.
spans aren't what they used to be.
So
But he was never complained about being cold. One day when we sat down on a ridge to rattle, he did sit down on a cactus.
that
Um,
happens.
but but I mean, to his credit, he didn't mention it until later in the day. He was just saying,
Yeah.
"This is kind of sore. It's kind of bugging me."
He's
So it was
got
nothing.
splinters all over.
It was nothing a
Oh,
little bit of duct tape couldn't fix when we got home. We just
yeah.
stuck tape on there.
So I have a question for you. And this is, you know what? I'm gonna jump in here real quick, but I've got a really good question that's gonna spur some thought from our guest Josh Ward of Gunpowder Inc. But right now we're gonna jump in from a word from our sponsors. All right, we'd like to thank Smith and Wesson, smith-wesson.com. We'll get you there. And they are running a bunch, really two solid rebates right now. I don't know if you guys are really interested in saving money around the holiday times, because I know I am. But Smith and Wesson is running a couple rebates right now. One is called the Shield Your Pocket Holiday Rebate. Yeah, we're shielding our pockets. And I believe that one is on Shield firearms. There's a $50 rebate. So it saves you a little bit of money on a gun that's all that non-expensive when it comes to a self-defense firearm. But man, they are so good. They really do shoot. And the other one is a 1X Power promotion for free optic on select MSRs. And you can go find all about this at smith-wesson.com/rebates. You're going to want to jump on these right now because they will not last long. All right, we're back with Josh Ward of Gunpowder Inc. And we left off. I've got a great question for you, man. Would Ryan be more ruined by shooting a big deer, or so starting off his first deer, giant buck, or to have him wearing Sitka? So now he's got a taste for the good stuff. What's worse?
Well, it's funny because I was actually with one of my cousins this past weekend, and he and I grew up hunting together. Our dads were good friends, and his dad was my uncle, and my dad. When we started out hunting, our gear consisted of stuff that wasn't nice enough to wear to church.
Yep.
And I can actually remember the first deer hunt I ever got to go along with my dad, my uncle, my cousin. And we slept on hay bales in an old barn. And I was in an old Army surplus sleeping bag. It was stupid cold. And the only thing I remember is my dad kind of kicking at my heel at dark 30. And he says, "Hey, time to get up." I said, "Okay, okay." He said, "You better put on 2 pairs of breeches today. You're going into the briars." And so we would put on 2 pairs of jeans, And me and my cousin would get in these canyons and walk through this thick stuff, and we basically drive deer out of the side of the canyons. And
Oh,
with ice and snow and rain, and it just was miserable. But you were at least deer hunting.
yeah,
So now, I mean, part of me thinks, well, Ryan should have to earn his spurs and hunting, old blue jeans or something. But as it
yeah,
is, he was so comfortable. Well, what would ruin him more? Probably shooting just a giant stomper of a deer first would
yeah,
probably, because at that point he might start to think that he's like an expert and not realize that so much of that is luck. You can only do so much homework and so much preparation, but there's so much of it's luck.
yeah,
But I got to tell you this story talking about putting him in the Sitka gear. So he never once said he was cold. But that was really my
right.
concern, that he would be uncomfortable or cold, and and not be in it to win it.
Yeah,
So the last weekend of rifle season in Oklahoma, I had found this spot where they had swathed grass on the backside of this ridge near a field that was planted in like no-till wheat. But
yeah,
that field was where we'd seen that big buck. We didn't have permission to hunt it, but there was a spot where there's like a natural funnel coming off that field, and the fence was down. And I checked the tree row, used the wind, checked the tree row, and there's just rubs and scrapes, and deer just been running that place ragged. So I said, there's about a 10-acre patch where they'd swath. I said, we're going to put a ground blind underneath this cedar tree, and we're just going to sit here. It'd be an easy sit. And
yeah,
if there's a shot, it's right in his wheelhouse, right? It's going to be inside of probably 60 yards, 70 yards. It's going to be perfect. So we
right.
sit there the first afternoon, and we actually had some deer coming our way. And I was like, okay, we're done. This is, I'm getting ready to, in my mind, I'm already field dressing.
Yeah,
Well, then they started looking back to the north, and they don't blow, but they just eased off before they got to the thing and left. Well, the person who hunted that next property, here they come tromping across this field at 4:30 in the afternoon.
oh,
Yeah.
come on.
And so Ryan was pretty dejected. And I said, look, man, I said, this happens. I said, I would be lying if I said I never did that to somebody unknowingly. It's like, this person
Yeah,
didn't.
yeah,
It was not malicious. It just is what it is. I said, we're hunting on private land. If we were hunting on public land, it would be even more common. I said, but you can use this to your advantage.
hmm,
You can use that pressure. So I said, what we're going to do is we're going to leave this ground blind overnight. We're going to back out of here. We're going to use the wind, and we're going to go on the backside of this ridge and check all the blind spots on this 230 some odd patch of wheat, acre patch of
yeah,
wheat. So we do. We go check the first blind spots loaded with deer. So I've got like 17 sets of eyes to contend with, and I'm telling Ryan, like, hey, let's back up. They're out of your shooting range. Let's back out of here. Let's not blow this field. Let's go check the next blind spot. Well, we go check the next one. It's got even more deer in it. So all that pressure had moved all these deer. So now we're
on,
pinned.
yeah,
We're stuck on the backside of this ridge, and I don't know where to go without just blasting this whole field, all the deer off of it. So we we're sitting there, and I said, stay here. I'm gonna go straight north and then come back around and check this other blind spot. Of course, by the time it was all said, there's like 50 something deer on this
oh
field,
gosh,
and they're all out of his shooting distance that I'm comfortable with him taking.
yeah,
So I said, let's just back out of here. We've got tomorrow. Let's just play it smart. Okay, okay, okay. So, didn't have to talk him. He understood, which was good,
yeah.
because when I was a kid, I'd have been like, we're
No,
we're
we're
good.
chasing after him. Yeah,
Yeah. So we back out of there. The next day we go, and we get in that ground blind. And it's an easy sit, right? It's an
yeah,
easy sit with little chairs in there. We've got his field pod and that Model 7 Remington. He's just we're just ready to go. And any shot is going to be within his range. And this is a high traffic area. The wind's perfect. Perfect.
right,
So I had some deer out on this neighboring field, and they are coming this way. And then they cut just short of us and back into the timber. And there was a little, like maybe a basket six or something, and
yeah,
maybe a yearling and a fawn and one mature doe. I said, one of them's going to come down this fence row. And so here they come. Then the mature doe takes the lead, and she comes to the edge where they'd swathed. And so
right,
she's 60 yards, but she's kind of on my side of the blind. And I whispered, hey, get ready, get ready.
yeah.
She comes out.
This
She
is,
comes
this is where the story gets good.
Yeah. She comes out, and she's dragging her fawn with her, and the other one's kind of holed up back in the trees. She comes to about 30 feet in front of the blind. just moving along, and then kind of stops. And
Oh my gosh.
I actually had my camera and my phone in my hand because I thought this shot is going to be that where we're set up. I can maybe get his first deer on camera. Well, how cool
Yeah.
would that? And so the doe comes through. She's at 30 feet and she stopped broadside. And
Perfect.
I said, Ryan, are you going to
Killer.
take the shot? And I kind of glance over at him, head back, mouth open, asleep. He is out. And so that's a testament to the deer right there. He was. They make great pajamas, apparently.
So comfortable. They're so comfortable that you're gonna fall asleep while you're hunting.
So I reach
I don't
over.
think that's the tagline they want to use.
I reach over and I just grab his thigh and squeeze it. Right.
Yeah.
Right. I'm trying to get his attention. And finally he shakes awake and bang, the doe pins us. She's looking right into the blind. I'm like, oh, good grief. So she starts doing the foot stomp thing, trying to make us flinch. And then and the fawn was doing it too, which was kind of funny.
That is funny.
And he's like, oh. I said, Ryan, you got to get on this deer. Like, you've got to get on her. And I guess in moving the sticks, he touched the fabric of the blind, and she was gone. And I thought, and he said, I'm sorry, I'm tired. We got up at 4 a.m. I said, yes, we got up at 4 a.m.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. We got
up at 4 a.m. And I realized there's a reason every night when we were done, I was so tired. And I'm very glad that I made the conscious decision to take one rifle and not try to manage two rifles.
Yeah.
You know, he's good with gun safety. He knows the rules, all that kind of stuff. But I think it's very important. And this is all trial and error, right? Because you years in the woods with your boys than I do with mine. But I think that you kind of have to make a decision, like, who are we hunting for today?
Yes.
And so once I made that decision, we're hunting for Ryan, unless that big boy came out, then it
was nudge him off the gun. Sorry, kid.
It was a lot easier to manage, but it was a lot of work.
Well, you talk about blinds, you talk about chairs, you talk about getting set up. Like there's a process and a requisite amount of preparation that you have to do on the front end, in the middle, the back end, making sure they're comfortable. Like that's key. Like, and I think we are lucky that we ended up as hunters, because the clothing that we had back then, the amenities that we have, a pop-up blind wasn't a thing. You know, think of how long it took you and I to set up a tent just to go camping when we were little. That was like an hour and a half event where, you know, dad ends up drinking a little bit because he's so stressed out because he can't get, you know, one corner of the tent to stay up. You know, I mean, so like we have all these cool things, and I think it's funny that he is wearing Sitka, because, man, if you have it, let him use it. Like, absolutely. Like, that's what we do. And like, there's so much that goes into this, taking kids hunting. Absolutely so much. And like, they don't know. Like, they don't know what a deer blowing smell like sounds like, and what it's for, and why that doe needed to be shot at that moment. Like, teach her a lesson.
And so I think that, and maybe everybody knows this, and it just had to be something that I experienced to realize. But if you want to have a deer hunting buddy, that's your son or your nephew or your niece or whoever the young person is in your life, you know, good gear is going to go a long ways towards making sure they come back, right?
Yeah.
You know, because it's no different when you go fishing. You know, if your first time you take your kid fishing is, you know, some big blue water adventure where they're puking over the side and they're stuck out there on the water for 12 hours getting beat by the sun, they're probably not going to want to go back.
No.
You start in you know, little doses and these day trips, you know, to northwestern Oklahoma. You know, I think it was just about right, and I'm glad that I waited a little longer, because you know, you don't want to ruin it for him too soon.
Yeah.
He was ready, like he anxiously and was wanted to go. He was determined to go. Was listening, because that's a big thing. You know, you got to make sure they listen and respond to instructions.
Yes.
And but yeah, it's one of these things now, and I'm really glad we're talking about this, you know, here being a couple weeks out from Christmas, because this is all playing a role in Christmas gift decisions because,
Absolutely.
he's past I mean, he still likes some toys. And of course, he likes video game stuff. He's 10, but he's not like a toy kid anymore. He's gone
Yep.
beyond that, right? So he's like playing with models and things of that nature. But now, you and I had a nice conversation about the Sig Cross.
Yep.
Um, and I think that's the direction we're going to go in a 6.5 for him.
Yeah.
Um, you know, uh, the Death Grip
That's
tripod,
from
probably.
Bog Pod.
I think
Yeah.
that's going to be something that he's going to wind up with under the tree. And then now that he obviously is very comfortable in his Sitka gear, and now I can go through and look, and I can say, okay, we've got youth models like in the
Right.
Cyclone, in the Stratus pants, and then for some kids, they may even be able to. Some of the Sitka gear is available in a men's small, so you can
Yeah.
even upsize to a men's small, which might even allow them to get a few more extra years out of it. But
Yeah.
all those things play
Well,
a role.
that's a good way to look at it because, like, the 9-year-old, there's no way I'm going to go out and buy him hundreds and hundreds of dollars. But my 15-year-old, like Jet, like, there's no, like, I can get him men's mediums now, and they're going to last him probably. I mean, he's a smaller kid. That'll probably last him through his high school years. And so I can get 3 years out of it there. But man, I just can't imagine, like, because I would piecemeal stuff together. In one year, I mean, no matter what you buy them, they're always going to either forget something unless you pack it yourself, or forget to wear something. Like the first year Knox shot his first deer, I'll never forget it. And you and I were talking about this. He sat there, and I'm like, all right, got his deer, loaded up, and great job, buddy. And all right, we're going to go back. We clean it. We go back to the truck. And it was 21 degrees that morning. The kid forgot to put on socks, and he had like these chintzy like little rubber boots, and I mean I had some toe warmers for him. He didn't wear those either, and he didn't complain about it one bit. And I'm like, yeah, like you and I would have been back at the truck. I would have been crying, but nope, he just goes on. I guess his toes don't get cold. I don't know, but man, or they're numb.
Yeah, they're either numb or it's that young person's great circulation in the feet or something that
Oh
like
yeah, it had to have been because when he took those off, and I would notice he didn't. He goes, I guess I just forgot.
To see all of Gun Talk's content, go to guntalk.com, guntalktv.com, or sign up for the Gun Talk newsletter.